We're up in the Colville area visiting Bigfoot sighting spots, looking for game and hoping to get lucky and spot a Bigfoot ourselves. I mean, I never expect that anymore, but if you're not out looking, you're never going to find the creature. So we'll give you some of the Bigfoot sighting reports in the area and show you some of the scenery and some of the game that's in the area. Just plentiful game. As a matter of fact, there's several deer up on the mountainside behind me that I'm looking at right now that I'll film for you. I see like 4 or 5 of them looking at me right now.
Here's the Bigfoot sighting report that was submitted. This happened in the mid-70s. It was October. Okay, here's the guy's Bigfoot sighting. I was 8, almost 9 at the time. My father was the night watchman for the mine. We lived there in 2 36-foot camp trailers that he had built a room to hook them together. We used a wood stove to heat the trailers. We also had an outhouse because of the lack of plumbing and hookups. My cousin Chris, I believe, was the first to see the thing, because earlier that year, around the middle of August, his sister and him came up to spend a couple of weeks with us, which was nothing usual in itself. What started to happen while they were there? My cousin, he wouldn't use the outhouse. Instead, he would crap in his pants or urinate around outside where we lived. It didn't sound right for a kid that was 4 and potty trained quite well. I asked him, why did he do this? And he told me there was a monster around the outhouse. I told my mom about his fear. She thought he might have been afraid of something was going to pull him through the hole or something in the outhouse, so she took him down there. It was behind our place, kind of off away from where we lived. She explained that there was nothing in the outhouse and he wouldn't fall in. Well, he still kept doing it. I asked him if he really was scared of the outhouse, and he told me no, that he was afraid of the monster he had seen by the outhouse. I just chalked this up as wild imagination and forgot about it. Then around in October, my dad and I went hunting. It was deer season. Up on the mountain above the mine, I had the feeling that something was watching us and following us, but could not see anything. We came across a deer that had been killed by something. It had been mangled. My dad thought it could have been a cougar or some wild animal like that. That didn't feel right to me, because its skull had been crushed. I'd never heard of something like that before. Needless to say, we went back, and we went back home in a hurry. My uncle, aunt, and cousins came up, same cousins as before, so my uncle could deer hunt with my dad. My cousin Chris and I were on our way to see the dead deer that we had seen earlier. It wasn't very far away, about a half a mile away, when we heard the most blood-curdling scream I'd ever heard. The scream was like nothing like we had ever heard. It started like a deep guttural growl and went up to a high-pitched scream. It scared the crap out of us. We went back and told everyone about it, but they just said it was the wind. I thought that was strange, because there hadn't been wind. Later that same year, around the middle of September, my mom and I were leaving to go visit my grandma. I had just stepped out of the door and was heading for the car when I froze with fear. I was looking at some kind of a creature eye to eye. It was very tall. It was 8 feet or more in height. It was covered with dark brown hair. The hair was maybe 3 to 4 inches long on its head. It had huge shoulders. The thing was just huge. The body was well proportioned. It had a distinct odor, kind of swampy, musty, sickening smell. The thing that stands out most vividly in my mind was its eyes. They weren't exactly brown, but kind of deep green. They were mesmerizing, to say the least. I just stood there. I couldn't move. My mom come up behind me, and we walked back slowly backwards to the one trailer. We locked the door and shut the curtains. My mom told me it was just some guy in a monkey suit trying to scare us. I could tell she didn't even believe the story herself. We tried our best to just forget about it. My mom tried to get my dad to move out of Colville, but he wouldn't. He said it was probably nothing but maybe a bear. A few days later, my mom went to my grandma's in hysterics because she had been sitting on the bed, putting on her makeup, and she saw the same creature in the reflection of the mirror looking in the window at her. My grandma calmed her down, and she went back home. My mom suffered a nervous breakdown from the experience, and to this day will not go camping or even picnicking in the woods. I put it out of my mind. I guess children have that kind of defense against trauma like that. I never remembered anything until I was 12 and my parents took me to see, of all things, Star Wars. Seeing the hairy beast in the movie brought back all the recollection of my experience. I suffered a lot of nightmares, but I finally came to grips with the fact that I had seen this thing. I still go camping and hiking, but I'm a little cautious. If I feel weird at a place, I just leave. For the record, the creature never hurt me or my mom. I think it was just curious. From what I have learned about Bigfoot, there is no doubt in my mind that I seen one. I just hope that people realize these creatures are not out there to harm us, so only shoot them with the camera. Other people in the area where we lived had also seen the creature too. One of my father's co-workers, wife and kids, had expressed to my mother that they had seen something coming around their house that they rented at night. She had seen the face looking in their windows at night. She said it had been like an ape or something. My mom told her we had probably seen the same thing as her and tried to comfort her. There was also a retired couple that said that they had had the creature coming around their house at night and looking in the windows. It scared them so bad that they put their motorhome in their metal garage and locked it in there. And that's where they stayed, all locked up in the garage and the motorhome until they could sell the house. As I said earlier, my mother had had a nervous breakdown. Eventually, she moved us, my brothers and sister, in with our grandmother, and we stayed there, my mother refusing to go back to that house where the beast stalked around and looked in the windows at night until my dad could sell the place and we could move out of Colville. Colville is the gateway to the Uintas. There's a couple of large private tracts of land, private ranches between Colville and the Uinta National Forest. There's the Haynes Ranch and the Thousand Peaks Ranch. The Thousand Peaks Ranch is the largest privately owned ranch in Utah, over 60,000 acres. It is 17 miles from the beginning of Thousand Peaks to the other side to get to Whitney Reservoir, where you get back onto public property again. There's been a lot of Bigfoot sightings on and around these ranches. Matter of fact, on the Haynes Ranch, right on the border of Thousand Peaks Ranch, and this is just right outside of Colville, one of my friends, his name's Clint, in 2004, him and his brother-in-law come face to face with the Bigfoot. They come up over a hill. They were by a beaver dam area and everything. They had a ranch tag and were hunting deer or elk. I believe it was deer, but they come up and the wind was in their face. I think this is the reason why they were able to surprise the Bigfoot, is because the Bigfoot couldn't smell them, and then the wind coming in their face also made it to where their noise didn't carry in the direction of the Bigfoot. They come up, were about 30 feet away from the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot looked just as surprised as they did. It chomped its teeth a couple of times at them and ran into some trees, a big grove of pine trees, and then it let out a guttural growl towards them. Clint's brother-in-law put a shell into the chamber of the rifle for self-defense in case this creature come charging out of the trees and attacked them, and they decided they better just call it quits for the day and left the area and left with a memorable experience of seeing a Bigfoot, the Colville Bigfoot, I'm going to call it. But anyway, just last year, trackway of footprints during the hunting season. These ranches usually only people go on them in pairs. You're only allowed to bring one buddy with you to help you hunt a deer if you draw out a tag on any of these ranches. And last year someone found a trackway not too far from where Clint saw his, and they were pretty deep impressions. I was impressed. I saw the video of the footprints. I hope you enjoyed this Bigfoot sighting report. I mean, Colville and the surrounding area, it being the gateway to the Uintas, is just a Bigfoot sighting hotspot, a mecca for Bigfoot sightings in Utah. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching.